Hello, I'd like to welcome you to the presentation called Growing Your Network with Social Media. Let's get started. First of all, let's talk about what social media is. Everybody's heard the term and everybody probably uses it, but just to make sure you understand and it's been defined for you before we go any further, it's basically just using the web or using mobile technologies like a smartphone or a handheld device to communicate with people. That's really all it is. There's a lot of misconceptions about social media being overly complex or being for kids and all this different stuff. But all it is communication, and it's doing it kind of like you would do it in the real world. When you meet people, you shake their hand, you speak to them, you talk to them, you get to know them, you ask them questions, all these different kind of things. We're doing the same things here with social media. We're doing it through technical devices. So, having said that, in a live presentation, this is where I would ask you to start socializing, to get up and meet people and go speak to them. But always remember that when you socialize in any situation, it's pretty common for us to say what we do and ask other people what they do for a living and maybe talk about the weather. But in most cases, you don't talk about your business and what you do and the kind of products and services you create all that long when you first meet somebody. When you first meet somebody, you want to get to know a little bit about them. Maybe ask them, are they married? Do they have kids? Where they grew up? Where do they live right now? There's all kinds of stuff you might get into talking about. I know when I meet somebody, I usually end up talking about sports and recreation if that person is also into those kind of things. So think about when you're being social with people, that is exactly the mindset you want to be in when you participate in social networks. So obviously this is a recorded presentation. You can skip this section of going and socializing with people, unless of course you're in an office right now, then I'd say go and try this exercise because it would actually still apply to you. Now, let's talk about an overview of what this presentation covers, what it's all about. There's five basic principles that I want to cover, and each one is very important to you as a small business owner, just to make sure that when you approach social media as a strategy for your business, that you understand everything that's involved, what to do, what not to do, and so on. So the five things I want to cover are social media myths, and then how to make time for social media. A lot of people really don't think they have time for it, and I want to dispel that. What to avoid when participating in social networks. I want to get into some tools that help you use social media more often, make it easier for you, and actually enjoyable to use. And then I want to tell you some social media success stories from my world that will just give you a better idea of how this stuff works and hopefully simplify it for you so that you feel like getting out there and using social media right away. So first, let's go through some myths. I think these are probably the most important things to start with because a lot of people that I talk to, I don't know if you're like this yourself, but a lot of people I talk to that haven't really used social media yet stack up all these different reasons as to why they don't want to use it. And there's probably 100 myths that are kind of incorrect assumptions that are out there right now, but I have five that I think really stand out to me. I've had more than one conversation about these things, and the first one is that size matters. When you're dealing with social media, even think of something like Twitter or Facebook, where it's publicly displayed how many friends and how many followers you have. And a lot of people think that, well, unless I've got thousands of friends on Facebook and hundreds or tens of thousands of followers on Twitter, how much impact can I really have? And the truth is that size absolutely has nothing to do with your success or the use you have for social media. If you think back to when we defined it, social media is about connection. It's about engagement. It's about meeting people, connecting with people at all different levels of your life, not just at a business level, but in general, connecting with people who are, if you're a parent, talk to other parents, those kind of connections. So size doesn't matter at all. What matters is the types of relationships and the types of connections that you create. I've met people that have less than 100 followers on Twitter, but have very, very strong use of Twitter and have actually done business, have made friends, like long lasting friends that they've met in real life, all these different kind of things, because the quality of the relationships they're creating through these social media platforms is high. So it's definitely not about size at all. It's about the quality of the connections that you're making. And social media actually makes it easier for you to meet like-minded people, because in social media, you think about things like Facebook, you share a lot of personal information about yourself, and we're not really going to get into security, but that's something you want to make sure you know about with Facebook. But when you display things publicly on Facebook, other people can see that, hey, this person is interested in XYZ. So it doesn't really matter, but when you think about that, you're actually giving yourself an opportunity to meet people that are more like you. And you can find the people that are like you a lot quicker because they've displayed these things. If you're at a live networking event, all you see is a room full of people, and the most you really know about them is the way they're dressed, how they carry themselves, which can be a big thing as well. I'm not trying to downplay that, but you don't know anything else about them. You don't know what their interests are. You don't know where they're from. You don't know what kind of business they're in, all these things. So you can see the upside that social media has, and size certainly doesn't matter. The other myth, or the second myth I want to cover here, is the fact that a lot of people don't even want to touch social media because they think it's just way too time consuming. I'm running a business. I've got a store. We have really long hours. We're open early. We're open late. We open on weekends. We're even open on Sundays now. We've got to take care of all these different orders and shipping and dealing with customer returns and all this stuff happening in my business, not to mention the bookkeeping and all the administration. How in the world am I going to have time to do social media? And to an extent, I would say that, yeah, that's a valid argument. But just looking at as a cost is not the way you want to do it. You have to think of social media as something that you need to be doing for your business. And as I get into some of the more positives and some of the success stories, you're going to be able to see why you want to do this. But the myth is that social media is time consuming, and that's not the case at all. Social media can actually be something that you do on a daily basis and spend just a few minutes or maybe even a half an hour doing and then move on. When I get into some of the topics, when we cover the different tools that are available, you're going to see that social media, if you just make it a simple habit in your daily business regimen, can be something that isn't time consuming at all, but can have huge, long lasting impact in your business. So it's not time consuming if you know what to do. And also, when you think about it, engaging with people in a let's say a coffee meeting, that is time consuming because you got to go and sit down with that person for half an hour, maybe even longer. And sometimes those meetings go longer than you want them to, and they end up cutting into your day. Where with social media, if you do it the right way, you can still make powerful connections and chat with somebody, let's say over Facebook and Twitter, and do it digitally where you can respond to each other when it's convenient, but you still can carry on a dialogue and carry on a conversation that's meaningful and that could have long-lasting repercussions. You could be doing business deals, setting up business deals through social media discussions. So these things can be very powerful, and they're definitely not time-consuming if you know how to do it properly. Another myth that I hear people talking about, and I just don't understand why they even say it, but is that social media, I deal with these clients in this space, and I know that none of my clients use social media. And when you look at the stats today and the trends, the number of people going into social media networks and starting to use these platforms on a daily basis is explosive. It's not slowing down. It's actually getting faster. And some of the biggest growth groups are things like baby boomers, where I hear a lot of business owners saying, "Well, I market to an older crowd, and social media is just for kids." Well, no, the baby boomer crowd are the people going and creating Facebook profiles and looking to connect with high school friends they lost touch with 20 years ago, and they're using these networks all the time because it's so interesting for them. They can see how their grandkids are doing online. They can talk with nieces and nephews and cousins and all these different things, and they're embracing the technology more than ever before. And there's really no demographic of people that is not using social media. There may be pockets of people that are not using it, but if you're in business, there's a very good chance that at least some of your clients are using social media. And if some of your clients are using it, or some of your prospective clients are using it, then shouldn't you be participating in those networks as a business, making sure that you have your footprint in there? Considering it's free, it doesn't cost anything to go into social media. Why would you not want your business presence and your personal presence in social media if there are prospective buyers there? So definitely do not buy into this myth that there's no clients or no prospective clients using social media, because it's not true. Another one is, and I've mentioned this a few times in other examples, is that a lot of people think that social media is just a bunch of teenagers and college and university students networking with their friends, getting the next keg party set up, or talking about what happened and all the gossip around campus and all these different things. And yeah, if if you're in that crowd, then that's a lot of the stuff that's happening on social networks. But there's also a huge business crowd in there. There's entrepreneurs using social media to talk about strategies, to set up, like tweet up events where all these different people that tweet about topics from a certain segment. Like I know people that are involved in mobile marketing businesses, and they tweet each other back and forth, and they create events where they get together in person. And that's definitely not kids' business. That's real business going down. There's large corporations using social media to reach out and dispel or to deal with customer complaints that have maybe gone a little bit viral, and they're kind of using social media as their access to the people that are unhappy with their brand. So it's definitely not for kids. It may have started out as a platform for kids. It's definitely not the case anymore. So just make sure that you don't buy into that myth. And another one is that, and this is the fifth and final one, is that social media can be a quick fix. Our business is in a rut, we're not getting any sales, or sales have really slowed down this month, or whatever, any of these different problems that may creep into your business. Let's go to social media networks like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, add a whole bunch of friends, and just start hammering them with deals and coupons and specials. And that is definitely not the way you want to approach social media. Social media, like I said off the beginning, is about connection, meeting people, finding common ground, developing long-term relationships, sharing value back and forth. If you look to social media as a quick fix, like an advertising platform, like buying an ad for and trying to move a bunch of stock from your warehouse, that is not going to cut it. In fact, you might get yourself a wrath of people who are unhappy with you and actually start unfollowing you and start ignoring your messages on social media. So you definitely do not want to treat social media and social networks as a quick fix to business problems or to slow sales, because it's not the case at all. Always think of it as relationship building and only relationship building. So now that we've covered some myths, let's actually look at how you can make time for social media interaction. It was one of the myths. I mean, people say all the time, I don't have time to do this because I'm too busy in my business. So let's see if some of these concepts will open your eyes to, hey, it is possible, and I can actually gain some of the long-term benefits of using social media if I make time for it. So the first thing is you need to sit down and figure out in your mind what is the actual value. Recognize for yourself, for your business, for your brand, for the type of people that you're dealing with, what is the value, short-term and long-term, of our business participating in social media? Are we going to be able to reach out to a bigger audience? Are we going to be able to engage with our current customers better? Are we going to be able to answer their questions and hear what they say and find out some of the problems they have in the niche or the market that we're working in? In fact, maybe we already sell products and services to these people that are not 100% solving the problem in that space. And if we get our finger on the pulse of what they're really thinking, maybe we can adapt our business and grow in that place. And then what you want to do is, once you've recognized the value, you need to put time into your schedule where you're actually going to go out and engage with these people. Whether it's asking questions or maybe you're setting up question and answer or types of surveys that are available out there, doing anything like that. But you need to be able to put it in your schedule. And once you do it, you just lather, rinse, repeat. You do this over and over and over again. So what I want you to do right now, and again, if you're watching this presentation, if you did not attend this live, then you can pause this here and go through it. But what I want you to do is sit down and actually spend quite a bit of time on this. List both the short and long-term benefits of networking. And I want you to remove the idea of social networks and stop thinking about Facebook for a second. Just what are the short and long-term benefits of you or representatives of your business getting out in the real world or in the online world and networking and talking to people? And I want you to think about it from a business perspective and from a personal perspective. What are all the different benefits to you when you meet these people? I know that when I go to a live networking event and I get out there and I shake hands, there are so many amazing opportunities that come out of that, whether it's business partners, potential customers. I found out about events that I could be attending, events that I could be speaking at. I find out about problems in certain markets that I didn't even know about, and I start thinking, man, I could create a product to solve that problem. There's so many cool things that happen when you get out and network and talk to people. So what I want you to do is list everything you could possibly think of that is a benefit to networking. So go ahead and do that now, and we'll continue the presentation. So now that you've done that, look at all those benefits, put them on a sheet, maybe even type them out nicely and laminate them and put them on your wall so that you remember, here's why I need to network with people. And more importantly, here's why I need to network with people on social networks, because it's quicker. Once you understand that, put it in your schedule, make a commitment to doing it. If you can't do it every day, then how often can you do it? Is it once a week? Is it twice a week? Hopefully it's not once a month. I don't think that's enough. You really need to make this a commitment so that you can give it enough time and measure the results down the road. And once it's in your schedule, just make sure you stick to it. So if it is twice a week, do it every single Tuesday, every single Thursday, or whatever you end up doing. But make sure you do that repetition process. Next, let's go back to the overview. What to avoid when participating in social networks. I want to make sure that when you get in there and you start using Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and whatever else you want to use, that you're not labeling yourself or potentially painting your brand in a negative light, because there's a lot of people that will immediately spot you and call you out if you're doing it wrong. There's these unwritten rules. I want to make sure that you understand what they are and what to avoid doing so that you don't become one of those people. And the easiest thing, it's like the golden rule, it's the rule of thumb, and all you have to do is remember this, is that online or offline, the same rules apply. So if you're out at a dinner party, or you're out at a networking event, you're at a seminar and you're on break, you're going for a coffee and you're starting to shake hands with people, what would you do in those situations and what would you not do? I know one thing I would do is I look for people that are not busy right now, and I just approach them and I start talking. I introduce myself. It's a networking event. Like, I don't want to wait for people to come to me, so I aggressively go and talk to people, and they love it because they were probably waiting for somebody to make the move. Then, once I get that conversation going, maybe I shake their hand, I say who I am and where I'm from. Do I immediately pitch them on my MLM business? Not at all, right? And neither should you. And if you are doing that, you're probably not leaving a very good impression with the new people that you're meeting. What you're probably going to do is you're going to get to know them a little bit. You're going to ask them some questions, both about their business and about other things. You may get to know them a little bit better. Sometimes you really hit it off with people and you find out that, hey, you guys went to the same high school or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. But you definitely perform and you behave in certain ways when you meet somebody. So online, it's the exact same way. So I want to give you a list of don'ts, and this is just a subset of probably 100 different things that you shouldn't do, but these are the main ones that I think I get annoyed by when I see people doing them. And I'm sure you would agree that these things are annoying, so just don't do them, and I want to make sure they're in this presentation as a reminder for you. So I just talked about the first one. Don't start hard selling people the minute you meet them, or even a day after you meet them. In fact, don't hard sell people, period. It doesn't work anymore. And I'm sure that's a whole other presentation in itself. But when you meet somebody, make a point of connecting. Do not hard sell. Do not sell at all when you're first meeting them. Talk about other things, or just talk about your business at a high level. Also, don't be one of those people, and I don't know if it annoys you as much as it annoys me, but when I meet somebody new and they go right into their full life story and all the problems they're facing and everything that's wrong and right and all the good things they've done, all the bad things they've done, it drives me nuts. Don't spend all day talking just about yourself. If you're excited about a project that you're working on, you're excited because you're getting married this summer and you're getting all the plans ready for that. That's cool. That's like an event, and you want to share that information. You're genuinely enthused about that. But you don't necessarily need to give a laundry list of everything you're working on and all the things that you're happy and sad and mad about. I don't want to hear it. The person listening doesn't want to hear it, and you as a person would not tolerate somebody else doing that to you. Another thing is, don't just talk about business. I know I love connecting with people. Usually we have similar business interests, but the conversation shifts away from business pretty quickly. I'm a sports guy, so if I meet other people that are into sports, we go there. I can spend an hour talking about sports, and it's fun to me. But that's how I connect with people. We're not talking about do strategy chats about business. That might happen down the road, but we're talking about things that are fun. I know I also connect really well with other dads. I have two young boys, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And when I meet other dads, and especially when it's other dads with like one son or two sons, where it's a very similar situation, I can talk to them for a long period of time. And I think about people I've met in like on discussion boards where we add each other to Skype and we just text each other back and forth. And a lot of the conversation goes back to we're sharing our war stories about being a dad and getting up in the middle of the night. And those people some people I end up doing business with, but this is way after we've had maybe 4, 5, 6 conversations about life and about other things that we share in common. So it's not always about business. And another one is here, point number 4, unless this is really your style, I know some people it is, don't go out of your way to embarrass and poke fun at people inappropriately, especially people that you've only met virtually through social networks, because you really don't know them that well unless you've met in person. In some cases, maybe you've known them long enough that you do know them well enough and they can handle being joked or poked fun at in a fun way. But unless it's really your style to come off as a guy who just makes fun of everybody, and that usually doesn't bode well for people that are trying to use social media to grow their business, then kind of just avoid that. Little fun jokes here and there is one thing, but I think you can tell the difference. Just use common sense and your own judgment, because the last thing you want is people getting angry at you, or a whole bunch of people saying, hey, this guy's really somebody you don't want to follow on Twitter because he's just a jerk. And then the fifth one here is a really big one, spam. Uh, this is almost just a rookie mistake. I think some people are just used to getting their inboxes flooded with the same crappy fake ads all the time that they think, well, that's the way the internet works. So I just joined Twitter. I'm going to tweet about my latest coupon and our latest discount on our products at our hair salon 1,000 times. And hopefully, if I tweet it 1,000 times, all these different people out there, whether they're my followers or they're searching for salon products, maybe a few of them will find me and come into my store and we can upsell them and stuff. Don't think about that at all. When you go to social networks, you try to be as genuine as possible. Think of it as a conversation. If you were in speaking to somebody at a coffee shop live, one on one, you're having a chat, you're not going to tell them about your promo 100 times. They would just walk out and think you're absolutely insane. You say it once and then you move on. And if you want to keep a conversation going, talk about other things or extend the existing point that you've been talking about. If you start out, you talk about a problem, talk about potential solutions to the problem. Don't just spam the same message out over and over again. It's not going to work. It's going to get you unfollowed really, really quickly, and you're not going to have any quality contacts or relationships in your social profiles. Another thing you want to avoid is ignoring any of your social media profiles. So one mistake I see people making is like, I want to do social media. Our business needs to be fully social. We need to be able to find our customers everywhere. So they get one of their staff members or they themselves go and they sign up for everything. And they not just Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn like the big ones, but they go to every mini social network and all the social bookmarking sites, and they've got a profile for the business everywhere. But they're the type of person that doesn't have time to manage all these different profiles. Well, nothing looks worse than, let's say, you have a Twitter account and your last tweet was, 8 months ago, and it's talking about something that's so irrelevant right now. That looks bad because it means that you don't care about socializing with people there. So they're not going to make any time for you. And even if you start tweeting, maybe they've already written you off. So what you do want to do on the other side, of the flip side of this, is only create profiles and only participate in networks where you're going to make the time for it. So it's back to that first myth. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. So maybe right now you just say, okay, I already have a personal profile on Facebook. So for my business, I'm going to make some time to create a Facebook fan page and update that once a week and get some of my customers to join my Facebook fan page and share it with their friends. That's one good place to start. And I'm only going to focus on Facebook until I have more time or until I've really got that down pat, and then I'm going to add Twitter later on. Okay, so the main thing here is don't ignore your profiles, only do what you're capable of doing right now. And finally, remember that most social situations, social networking situations are public discussions. Unless you're sending a private message between you and another person, your discussions are public. They're public conversations. Everybody can see them. So don't say anything on those networks that you wouldn't say in a public conversation. If you're at a dinner party and you're gossiping about somebody and they're in the room, there's a good chance they might hear you. You're not going to do that in the dinner party. You shouldn't do that on a social network. In fact, you shouldn't gossip at all. But who am I to preach? So that's the main thing you want to keep in mind there. I'm sure you've seen some of those funny viral emails and videos that go around of people who totally tear a strip off their boss on Facebook and forgetting that that boss is actually a follower on Facebook and now you're fired. So make sure you don't do that. So next, let's talk about your social profile. You know what not to do. I've just given you some of the major things that you want to avoid. Now, let's think about what you should be doing. And what I want to do is turn this into an exercise. I want you to start writing down and start thinking about things what are you going to bring to the game when you start participating in social media? What are you going to bring to the table? And start thinking about all the different dimensions of how you would connect using social media, especially considering how powerful it is from the perspective of you can go to Facebook and Twitter and all these places and know so much more about a person before you ever engage with them. You know what they're interested in, you know what they're not interested in, and so on. So I just started you off with some questions to get you started. Answer these 5 to begin with, but if you can start coming up with more of your own, even better, because it's going to make the process of you getting out into these social networks a lot easier. So think about, what kind of people do I want to meet? Not just business. What other interests do I have? What hobbies do I have? What charities do I support, and so on? Those are the kind of people that I want to connect with, and I'm going to use social media to meet more friends and meet more like-minded people doing those things. What questions do I have right now? I know as a parent, every day I've got, 5 new questions. How should I handle this problem? Or my kids are not listening, or they're not going to bed on time, or they're waking up at night. How do I deal with this problem? Or my son had 5 ear infections this year. I didn't know how to deal with it, and sometimes I would go to Twitter and ask my friends, "Did your kids have ear infections? What did you do?" So there's so many different questions that you have that you could Google, but sometimes it's better just to ask a real person who's dealt with the problem. So how can I go to social media sites and make connections and make friends who can answer these for me? That's a really powerful thing to ask yourself. Who can I help based on my experiences? Again, think beyond business. Who can I help, period? Have you dealt with a health issue in your life that you can help somebody else who's dealing with the same thing? Did you save, $5,000 on a brand new car purchase because you found out about some special rebate or discount from the government? Maybe there's somebody out there tweeting about, oh man, I can't afford the new car, but I really need one. Well, maybe you can help that person out. That would be a friend for life if you save them $5,000. Great way to connect with people. How can I entertain people? How can I motivate people? I like having a lot of fun on social networks, so I've created a bunch of YouTube videos that are really just me trying to be a comedian and be fun. It has nothing to do with business. It's fun. My kids laugh at the videos, my wife laughs at the videos, my friends find them funny, and it gets some traffic to my websites. And it works well for me. And my social profile is I'm a fun, easygoing guy, and I entertain. I try to motivate people as well, and that's what works for me. How can you ask yourself the same kind of questions? How can you really bring out your personality? So do that now, and then come back and we'll continue the rest of the presentation. So let's move on now to the fourth point in this presentation: tools that will help you with your social media and just using it better and using it a little bit more efficiently. And I've got some pretty cool tools that I use on a regular basis. I think it might make you enjoy and maybe be a little bit more interested in using social media. The first one is my favorite. It's called Tweetdeck, and this is obviously if you're using Twitter. But Twitter is a big one. It's a powerful one, and I think if nothing else, when you leave this presentation, consider, if you're not using Twitter already, consider learning it and getting involved in it, because it's very efficient. It's 140 character discussions and less, so you can really just get to the point, but you can also learn a lot about people and meet people very, very quickly because of the real-time nature of it. Now, what I've got on the screen here is a picture of TweetDeck, which is a software tool that makes understanding and following and reading and responding to people on Twitter a whole lot easier. And that's I think the biggest thing that people find when they first join Twitter is they don't know how to use it. They've got, they sign up and they start following some people that are recommended to them and maybe send an email to some of their friends, and now what do I do? Well, with TweetDeck, it actually lays out things very easily for you. If you look on the screen there, what you'll see is when let's say you first launch a Twitter account and you get a few followers, maybe it's your friends and some of the suggested followers, and then you install TweetDeck on your computer. What it does is on the left side, it gives you a column of tweets coming from the people that you currently follow. So that's going to be a really busy column. It gets updated constantly. It moves really quickly. In fact, it's hard to use because it moves so quickly. And then beside that, you'll see a column of people that have sent @ replies. So when they say @Justin Popovich, how are things going today? That's called a reply in Twitter. It's a public message, but it's sent specifically to me. I can filter out immediately in my TweetDeck view all the people that are talking to me on Twitter in real time. And that's a really good thing, because if somebody sends you a Twitter message, at 11 o'clock, it shows up at 11 o'clock in TweetDeck. You check TweetDeck let's say every hour, you can see, oh, it's 12 now. This guy only asked me this question an hour ago. I can get back to him. It's very likely he's still online. And that can be great for customer response or even signing prospective clients if you can address them in as real time as possible. You can also customize columns. So this is just an example of what TweetDeck looks like, but all those columns that you see are basically filters where you can go out to the world of Twitter and all these conversations that are happening publicly and look for keywords. So if somebody mentions the town of Richmond Hill in a tweet, you can have that in a column. And that could be great for you if you do business in Richmond Hill. Well, wouldn't you like to know about people tweeting things from the area? Maybe they're talking about something that you're involved in, or a project that you're working on, or something that you have interest, or just something you have knowledge about. Somebody says Richmond Hill, there it is. You can add columns for any kind of keyword that your business is involved in, or that you personally are interested in meeting people in. I know I'm a big basketball fan. I have a column that whenever somebody mentions the Toronto Raptors, I see it, and it's kind of it's a little bit of an upsetting discussion these days because they haven't been all that successful. But I've met some people that we're both Raptors fans. We both like to talk basketball, and a couple of those people actually ended up becoming friends of mine, my online friends, and we connected not through business at all, but through some other interest. I know for me personally, anytime I add a column, it's usually more of a personal thing that I'm looking for. Sometimes it'll be for business, but it can work for both. And so this Tweetdeck tool, I definitely recommend you use it if your computer can handle it. I'll talk about the resources it takes in a minute, but it's definitely something you want to look at because it lets you see, gives you a sort of like a magnifying glass into the world of Twitter and extract the things that are most important to you. Now, there's another product called HootSuite, and it's actually a web-based tool at hootsuite.com. And it basically does what TweetDeck does, but it does it through a web browser. And the key difference here is that when you run TweetDeck, you're installing a piece of software on your computer that actually it's quite time consuming. It's quite memory intensive, is what I should say. So it takes a lot of your system resources, and unless you have a fairly new computer with good RAM and good hard disk space, it might slow down your computer to the point where you don't enjoy using it. And so if that's the case, you can still get all those benefits of TweetDeck that I talked about in terms of having dedicated columns looking for keywords that you're interested in, but do it through a web client. And so I recommend you take a look at both of these, see what suits your style, and those two tools alone make using Twitter so much more powerful. I know that I was just about ready to give up on Twitter, and I started using TweetDeck, and everything changed. And that's the only way I use Twitter now is through TweetDeck, and it makes it so much easier. It's a lot of fun too. I can find things quickly if I'm in search for something, a particular topic. Even researching, getting my slides ready for this presentation, I had a TweetDeck column for social media tips, social media success stories, things that I might want to include in my talk, and I would just keep an eye on what people were blogging about and tweeting about, and whatever was showing up in Twitter. It was really cool. You could see that all in real time. Next, I have something here. This is actually not a tool, but I just wanted to bring it up. If you have not heard of Google Alerts is a tool from Google that basically looks through their index, and anytime something gets published online that matches a certain keyword, it will this system or this tool will actually send you an email or put into an RSS feed that there's something has been updated. So, for example, I have Google Alert set up for my name. If somebody publishes something about me online, and often it's myself because I put my name in my blog posts, it sends me an email saying, hey, there's some new content online with your name. Now, that's not really something that applies to social media, but there's a similar kind of tool called Social Mention that does pretty much what Google Alerts does, but does it in the social media world. And actually, I just realized now, if you look on the screen there, it's like Google Alerts, but for social media. And what you can do here is put any keyword, including your own name, your company's name, your products. Maybe you have a special kind of service or seminar or consulting package that you sell that has a unique name. And anytime that particular keyword gets mentioned in various social networks, this thing will give you an aggregated warning. Or you can actually even set it up so that you get real-time updates saying, hey, something was mentioned about you on Twitter. Click here to go check out what it was all about. So I talk about, one of the myths was people saying, I don't have time for social media. Well, if you have a tool like Social Mention running while you do other things, and it says, hey, your brand or your product or service was mentioned over on Twitter, or somebody did a Facebook update about it, then you can just go look at it and respond to it and then move on back onto what you were doing before. So it doesn't have to be something you're checking all the time when you use tools like Social Mention. You just get it in real time, you deal with it, and you move on. And it's a really, really cool way of getting involved with social media without necessarily taking all that much of your time. So those are just some basic tools I wanted to share. There's a lot of other tools available. You can do a Google search for productivity tools, social media, or social media utilities. I haven't really even got into things like social bookmarking sites and stuff like that on this presentation because I wanted to keep it high level enough that even business owners that are just starting can understand it. So maybe take some time to look at what other tools that are out there that can help you. But finally, I wanted to talk about some social media success stories that for me, this really drives home why I want to use social media and why I want to continue to use it. And for the clients that I work with, why I want to make sure they're using it and using it properly. Because there are a ton of success stories out there of companies that are doing it the right way and that are actually saving enormous amounts of money on their marketing budget because they're using social media, which really doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money. In fact, doesn't even have to cost a lot of time if you do it the right way, and they're getting amazing results by doing it. So I've got some simple examples, and I've got some a little bit larger, more complex examples as well. So let's talk about these. So the first one is LinkedIn giving me a connection where I was able to do a $1,500 deal. And this particular deal, this $1,500 deal, was a private consulting class that I was selling. It was one-on-one or one-on-two type of training on search engine optimization for a course that I just bought licensing rights to, and that I was basically a certified teacher of this course now. And I mean, it's pretty expensive when you're selling to small, medium-sized businesses, and for my case, it's usually independent consultants that I'm selling to. So doing a $1,500 deal it's not something that comes along every single day. But what happened was, I was relatively actively involved on LinkedIn, and what I mean by actively involved was I was adding connections maybe a couple times a week. I actually had my Twitter feed linked to my LinkedIn profile so that whenever I updated Twitter, it would show what I've been talking about on Twitter to my LinkedIn people, and they could keep an eye on me that way. And I actually created a LinkedIn message or LinkedIn event for a webinar I was doing to promote a seminar. And when somebody saw that, it was actually a lady I had met at another event saying, "Hey, what's this all about? I see you're doing this webinar." And we just got into talking, and nothing actually ended up coming out of that conversation other than a reconnection of somebody. She didn't buy my she didn't come to my webinar. She didn't buy the seminar we were selling, but we just reconnected and we started chatting again. I was on her radar once again, and this happened to be somebody that had a huge number of connections. She's a keynote speaker. She speaks all across Canada, and I just mentioned to her that these are some of the projects I'm working on right now. And if you have any people that are kind of struggling with search engine optimization, I've got a really good seminar, and I've also got some private consulting that I do. And I explained a little bit about why it was unique, and she thought it was really interesting. And about a day or two later, she sends me a LinkedIn message saying, "Can you give my friend Ron a call? He's actually he's interested in your seminar." And and so sure enough, she gave me his number. I gave him a call, and we got to talking. He couldn't come to the seminar, but he definitely wanted the access to my one-day consulting, and that's a deal I never would have got had I not been participating on LinkedIn. But if you look at what happened, it's just a straight business deal. Well, I ended up talking to somebody who gave me a referral to call somebody up who needed what I offered. I mean, nothing as crazy is happening here, but what is happening is the fact that I made that opportunity available because I put some time in to developing my LinkedIn profile. I made sure it was totally complete. I had my companies listed there. I had my latest offers. I had some other personal information about things I was doing, non-work related, and so on. And there you go. You take a little bit of time in LinkedIn, make a connection, do a deal. So those are the kind of things that social media can help you with. It doesn't have to be anything complex. It could just be something as simple as that. Another one is a friend of mine, Kelly. She was actually on maternity leave from a job that she was doing well in her job, but she was just on maternity leave, and she is a very energetic person. She's involved in a lot of fitness, and she always had this idea that she wanted to run her own fitness class or boot camp or something. And she didn't really know anything about websites. She didn't really have a budget to create a website, but she had a lot of friends on Facebook, and she happened to be from a small town where a lot of the people are connected, both through Facebook and just through the community in general. So what she did was she just started asking a few of her friends, "Hey, if every Tuesday and Thursday morning I started creating a fitness class, a boot camp, would you come out? And how much would you be willing to pay to help me get this up and running? Because I can't run it for free. I've got to rent out some space and so on." And she got the conversation going, and eventually she created just a basic Facebook group. Not even if this is before fan pages existed. She created a basic group just saying, "Hey, people that are interested in fitness in Shelburne, join this group, and I'll post messages on a regular basis to when our next class is happening." And over a period of a month or two, or maybe a little bit longer than that, she had 20, 30, 40 people coming out to her boot camp, and she had a little business started for herself, all while on maternity leave. And that business grew, and she actually now does have a website that she was able to pay with all of her revenues from those existing clients. But what a great way of using, again, basic functions in Facebook basic functions in any social media platform to create a business for herself even before she had a website. It's all about the connection and making those relationships and getting the referrals that you need. Another one is this was another personal example of mine where I was able to use Twitter to get a lot of people to register, well, relatively high number of people to register for a webinar that I created kind of last minute. And in this case, there was 30 people that jumped on the webinar, and I was able to convert 3 of those viewers into clients. And what I did was we were a business partner of mine and myself. We have a WordPress coaching business where basically what we do is we help small business owners develop a new website for their company. We do it on the WordPress platform, and then we teach them how to manage it themselves, so they don't have to hire a web developer. Because with the technology today, a lot of people can just manage their own websites. It's just very easy to do if they have the right training. So in a nutshell, that's what we were doing. And one of our strategies was, well, let's run a webinar where we can literally teach our system at a high level. And if people are interested, then they're probably going to sign up for the coaching. Well, we didn't really have much of an advertising budget, so we couldn't really run Google ads or Facebook ads to get targeted traffic to like a landing page. So we literally just went out to Twitter and started searching for people who were looking for the keyword website help or new WordPress site or WordPress help. And we made a list of maybe 10, 15, 20 keywords of people that we wanted to look for on Twitter who were asking these kind of questions. And then we methodically went through one by one and answered their questions. We did not sell them on our webinar or anything like that. We just literally answered their questions, and most of the time they would add us as followers. And then after a period of about a day, we'd hit them back saying, hey, we're doing this webinar. Here's the link if you want to sign up. There's no cost, there's no obligation, just join it. And within a day, maybe 2 days, we had 30 people signed up. And I think the majority of those 30 people came from our simple Twitter interactions. That cost us nothing but a little bit of effort and a little bit of time. And we already knew what we were doing. We had Tweetdeck. We knew how to, we knew the etiquette of replying to people on Twitter. We weren't overly spammy with our messages. We had to promote ourselves a little bit, but within reason. And those 3 clients signed, and they signed to 1-year contracts for their business. So it was a great example of using Twitter for a very targeted approach to a webinar where we got some business. It was great. And then there's a bigger example. This is a story I read a few times, and then when I was looking for success stories to share with you in this presentation, it came up again. I thought, well, let's just share the story. It's a salon in Seattle called Emerson Salon, and the owners basically bought this business from another owner and wanted to just give the whole place a facelift. Take it to bring it into the 21st century, make it new, make it fresh. And so what they did was they created sort of a newer looking website, an up-tempo blog, which you can see on the screen right now, and they got all of their stylists, basically all their staff, to get out and be involved on social networks. So tweeting about the business, tweeting about other things as well, just things in their personal life, but always kind of promoting their salon. And it got to the point where most of their business, I think they estimated 75% of their business was people that found out about them and became friends with them through places like Twitter. And through their Twitter profiles and through their Facebook page, they actually had links where they could book their appointment online. And after they booked their appointment online, they could tweet it out saying, I just made a hair appointment at Emerson Salon for next Thursday. You should check them out too. And it went viral. And all it took, again, was the effort and the ingenuity of this company to make sure that they were involved. And they didn't spend, there was money in designing the blog and all that, but they didn't spend any money on clicks to those websites and to those blogs and those order pages. And out in Seattle, I guess it was just well received. A lot of young clientele loved what they were doing, and it just grew on its own. So that's an example of how to really build a brand using social media, using social platforms. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching our presentation today, all about how to grow your network with social media. I hope you enjoyed it, and best of luck.